Alright guys, so I want to talk a little about my pocket build this patch. So the biggest nerfs and changes this patch was Majestic Leap. Majestic Leap got nerfed by about literally like it got double the cooldown, so it went from like I think 25 or 30 to now being 45-second cooldown, along with it not being able to go down if you get hit, which means you can't do the downwards, like the drop down, if you get hit. You can still do it normally and with the jump included if you don't get hit, but if you do get hit, you literally can't drop down anymore, so it makes it a little bit rougher, but that just means you have to play your engages more properly. Other things that changed are improved burst actually got buffed. So it went from 7% back to 9%, which is actually a pretty significant damage increase. So that does mean that improved burst does get a lot more value in the build. Now, everything else kind of stays similar, so I really still like Hollow Point early game. I feel like this item's really good. Same with Mystic Shot and Kinetic Dash. These feel like my core 3 that I don't feel like will ever change. And of course, if you feel like you're losing lane a lot and you need some more sustain, you can go ahead and get Restorative Shot. But usually I think healing right is enough for me, because you can get a trade, heal right back up to full, and you'll be fine. Also, Ammo Scav is a solo lane only kind of item. I don't really like it in dual lanes because you're not really securing as much and you can rely on your teammate. But Ammo Scav makes it so you never have any downtime for shooting your gun. You never have to reload, which means you can shove waves, or you can secure better. There's a lot of reasons as to why Ammo Scav is really good on pocket. The stats are also pretty good, and you're getting spirit power stacking, so you are more powerful towards the early game as well, and you're more of a threat in an early fight because you're up 20 spirit power. 20 spirit power is a lot early game, by the way, because you don't start with like any really, and you don't get much from these early game items yet. I mean, you get 4 here, 4 here. So that's why I'm saying 20 spirit power early game is really good. It also is really good tempo into mid game as well, but we'll talk about that a little later. Mystic Reach is essential, even though it got nerfed by about 1 or 2% ability range. Still really good with the bullet resist, and the bullet resist also got buffed by 1%, so it's good as well. I do like extra stamina, sprint boots, enduring speed, healing right. Now you can choose between getting extra stamina or not. I personally like to get it, and then I sell healing right for Majestic Leap. I do think sprint boots are essential though. Like, people really downplay how good these are just because of the value you have from faster rotates, which means when you say you shove a lane out and then you can go hit boxes, you can go for a gank, all that stuff. Sprint boots just make it quicker, and being faster on the map is super important, especially early game. So that's why I get this. Enduring Spirit is also really good because that 10% Spirit lifesteal is pretty valuable due to the fact that you are going to be ulting people in your, say, solo or duo lane, and if you get an ult off, you automatically win the trade because they'll be probably 1 HP, and then you'll be healing up from the ult damage as well. Really important. Also amazing stats as well. I would highly recommend getting this item every game. So yeah, Ammo Scav and Restorative are not essential. Ammo Scav and solo lane. And now we talk about the 5 to 15k power spikes. So Majestic Leap is still a very strong power spike, but there's no order to this. You can buy it any order you want. So say you're laning against like a heavy spirit lane, go ahead and get Cold Front Mystic Vulnerability for that 15% spirit resistance, and it puts you at 0%, right? Because pocket starts with -15. Or if you feel like you just need more HP and sustain, like say you're going to Shiv or something, you could also get Kinetic Dash for that bonus health, and it allows you to get early ganks off better. So you can engage and take less stamina for early ganks. It's really good, along with the fire rate. Your gun does do some good damage in the early game as well. I do think any of these items are really good for the first 3. I usually like to get Mystic Vulnerability and Cold Front early, and then Kinetic Dash, followed by Majestic Leap. Sometimes though, I might get Silence Cliff over Majestic Leap in matchups where, say, I'm playing against like a Infernus or a Wraith or a Geist. Anybody that has super high value ults that can change a fight, it's really important to get this. But I do still think Majestic Leap is really good as early as you can get it. Either way though, you're getting all of these. They're super important and core for the build. And now we move on to the essentials mid to late. So Improved Burst is going to be one of your first ones that you get. Obviously you don't have to rush it. Like, it's really good, but it's not super like essential, if that makes sense. Like, I do think Improved Cooldown, Soul Shredder, and Spirit Lifesteal are high value. But if you can't afford it and you need tempo for, say, like an earn fight, and you have like 2200 or 2500, it's way better to buy an item than to not buy an item and hold it. But again, that's why knowing what to do on the map is really important. Knowing when to farm, because after you get Improved Burst, you are just so strong. Like, that's when all your damage comes online. You can also replace Soul Shredder with close quarters like early game if you feel like you need more gun damage in the game. You can definitely just drop Soul Shredder for close quarters early. It's cheaper, gives you more weapon damage, and it's just not bad overall. But it's not super important which one you get. It's really dependent on the game state. And also here it says choose Warp or Emblem. So after you buy all of these here, and of course I will adjust this to look more visually pleasing. After you get all these, I do recommend getting Warpstone or Pristine Emblem. The reason being, Pristine Emblem is really good stats. Also gives you a lot of gun damage that you need, but the trade-off is that you'd lose that teleport from Warpstone, right? But I do think Pristine Emblem is high value when you're against heavy Spirit Resist comps. So if you're going into heavy Spirit Resist comps, I'd highly recommend Pristine Emblem. And the reason why I say that is because at this time you'll have 3 slots filled. So you have Cold Front, Silence Cliff, and Majestic Leap. So your fourth slot is either gonna be Warpstone or E-Shift, right? And obviously, you get later into the game, maybe you sell Cold. You definitely do sell Cold Front for like Unstoppable. I rarely buy Phantom Strike, but I just put it here just in case you need it against like a Haze or something, you know, a heavy gun comp. But that deciding factor of your 4th active slot is really dependent on the game state and situation. So when you choose between the 2 4th active item that you want, because you already have these 3, you choose between Warpstone and E-Shift. E-Shift allows you to get that 40% Spirit Resist after you come out, and it allows you to dodge more abilities and technically stall 3.5 extra seconds. But Warpstone has amazing stats on it and gives you that weapon damage along with bullet resistance. So like I said, it just really depends on what the game state is, who you're playing against. Do you need more bullet resist or do you need more Spirit Resist and the active of Ethereal Shift? So it's really up to you deciding on what you want to do. And that's like your 4th active item confirmed. Next up, you're going to want to get Diviner's Kevlar. So this is probably your biggest tier 4 power spike in the game. And making sure you get this after like all of these up here. You can rush Diviner's before one of your 4th actives, but I don't recommend it, honestly. It's just like if you have the money, sure, do it. But just know that either E-Shift or Warpstone is probably more value. But yeah, you want Diviner's Kevlar as your first tier 4 no matter what. It's just like the stats are amazing. It gives you the survivability that you need for Pocket, especially because, like, as you can see here, this is a very Glass Cannon focused build. So you really want this online as soon as you can. And now, you might be wondering what our setup will look like. Okay, so this is about what your build should be in like the mid game. This is like assuming you have 2 flexes, right? I mean, if you don't have 2 flexes, feel free to sell Mystic Reach. I do think that these items are more valuable than Mystic Reach at this point in the game. You're just looking for burst. But I mean, by this point in the time, this should be around, I'd say this is like 25k. So I'm assuming you have 2 flexes by now. But of course, some games I don't have 2 flexes by now, so you can sell Mystic Reach, that's fine. And then you just use your purple slot for the flex 1. But I want to show you guys the transitioning of selling items in the mid game. So as you can see here, I have extra stamina and Enduring Spirit from the early game along with Hollow Point Ward. Around this time is when you start selling items for higher value items. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose between Warpstone and E-Shift, right? Okay, so let's say I have no flexes and bullet resist is really good this game. Alright, I'm going to sell Hollow Point Ward, I'm going to go Warpstone. That's my 4th active. You have to wait for flex 2 for the E-Shift, but that's really dependent on the game state, right? Which is why it's really important of choosing which one you think is high value and which one can you actually afford to buy, right? And then after this, as you can see the greens here, we still have 2 tier 2 greens. I would really like to sell Enduring Spirit, and then you get Debuff Reducer. Now Debuff Reducer, it's under the Situational's Luxury, but like you're basically buying this almost every game. Like this item is so good, it works against Curse, Silence Cliff, Slowing Hex, any debuff in the game. It's super important on Pocket because you need to have the mobility to get out, and if they disable your mobility, well, you're just gonna die, right? Super important to get this. And obviously, say like you're against a really strong spirit comp and you need more Spirit Resist, for example, like and you already have Pristine Emblem from selling Hollow Point Ward, or you have Warpstone, right? Those are decisions you have to make. Then okay, maybe you decide, okay, I need Spirit Armor in this game, so selling extra stamina, going for Spirit Armor is high value. Like, it hurts to sell items like this, but I promise you in the long run this is just most important and it's what you're gonna have to do. So yeah, deciding between those is really important. Now say you don't get E-Shift and instead you get Warpstone plus Diviners, that's also good as well. Like I said, it really comes down to the state of the game of deciding what you want to buy, right? That's why I have these items here. So like, it's always dependent on what your flex slots look like, dependent on the other team comps. But just know that this build on the top here doesn't really change. You're buying all of these items on the top here no matter what. But the items down here, you are like deciding based off the game state. And that's something I really want to highlight, because you can't just follow a build completely and find success every game. That's just not the way MOBAs work. It's never going to be like that, ever. And if it does, there's a problem with your character. It's probably overtuned or something, right? So it's like you have to decide, and when you do find that decision and you pick the actives that you want, you pick the tier 3s and tier 4s that you want, that's when your character really comes alive and feels strong or weak. Now, there's some items on here that I want to talk about for counters and hard matchups. Metal Skin is really good when you're against Infernus, Haze, Wraith, and, you know, a lot of gun and people that focus on like bullets and bullet damage. And I do pile this higher than bullet armor. Sorry, I do think this is better than bullet armor because of the stats, and also like because of the effect itself is really good. And of course, like I said, you have to choose between what you want of the 3 down here. But there's that, and there's also debuff remover for, say, like Infernus, Bleed, and they have like Shiv, Knife build, and they have, you know, some other debuff characters. You can feel free to get debuff remover as well. Spirit armor is really, like, if they have literally 5 heavy spirit users like Grey Talon, Bird Vindicta, and like Max Spirit Infernus, like stuff like that, you get improved spirit armor. But again, these are just hard counter matchups, and you rarely buy these. I rarely buy these, and you're trying to focus your essentials / tier 4 power spikes here. Same thing with the ones on the right here, like Reactive Bear, Healbane. These are really good items, but they are dependent on the early game. So say they have a lot, like a Bebop, Dynamo, and Abrams, like they have a lot of CC, right? Reactive Bear is probably really good, and you could definitely buy that instead of like extra stamina. Like, these are the decisions you have to make, and of course the skill curve between this build and builds in general is knowing when to buy things and who to buy them against, right? So I can't guide you any more than that, besides, like, this is the main core build up here. All these items you're buying, no matter what, basically, no matter what, right? And all these here are all situational and dependent in what state of the game it is that you buy these items. That doesn't mean they're not essential, that just means that you have to decide when you want to get them. Once again, if you have any questions about the build, feel free to drop into my stream at twitch.tv/ido_z. And I am always answering questions for Pocket. I love talking about the build. I love when people talk about other builds too that they find success in, and you know, we can move some stuff around, right? Like, some people are saying they want to drop Majestic Leap first pure stamina. I'm like, okay, like what's the reason behind that? You know, we could talk about it. Let's do it. But yeah, there's things like that we can do, and this build will be posted. Idorian 1024 best Pocket build schmoovin. Okay, this is what it's gonna be called, and it's gonna be uploaded by the time this video airs, so you can look that up in the browse build section. Make sure to favorite it, and so it doesn't go away. And yeah, that's basically it. Hope you guys were today. Peace out.